Hello and welcome back to another Warlords of Draenor guide. So today I'm going to be talking about Apexis Crystals. Now Apexis Crystals are used to buy various things, including some vanity items, and of course some gear that ranges from item level 630 upwards. The 5th stage of the legendary questline requires 4,968 crystals. Anyway, now that all that stuff's covered, it's time to talk about how you actually get these things, and a few tips for getting more of them. Now, the main source is the daily Garrison quest. This can either be a solo quest for 800 crystals or a group quest for 1,000 crystals. The mobs in the areas that these quests are situated at also do drop Apexis crystals, though not really that many. Usually I would get around 50 crystals by the time I completed one of the daily quests. Obviously, since the group one does give more crystals, it's best to do that. And I suspect that a lot of people will be doing a lot of guild content anyway, with the 5-player heroics and challenge modes being pretty important at the start of this expansion. Now, these crystals can also come from Garrison invasions. You can get one of these weekly at your Garrison, and based on how you perform in the invasion, you will get a varying amount of crystals. A bronze medal will give you 33 crystals, a silver medal will give you 50, and finally a gold will give you 75. Frankly, that's a very low amount considering you can only do these invasions once per week. Other than that, there is also a follower mission called the Liberation of Shatrath. This is a rare mission, so don't expect it to pop up every day, but it does give 1,000 crystals. In addition to all this, your Garrison work orders will also give you a small number of Apexis crystals when you are level 100. So regardless of whether you need the work orders or anything like that, just do as many as you possibly can because you will get a, albeit rather marginal amount of Apexis crystals from them. Finally, many of the level 100 rares drop Apexis crystals. This number generally ranges from, say, 20 to 36. However, some of the easier, more soloable, well, super soloable rares may only give 8 to 10. So it certainly is worth killing rare mobs whenever you come across them, but again, it's not particularly lucrative. Now, in terms of what is the best strategy, I recommend just doing the daily mission every single day, completing the weekly invasion, and running as many follower missions as possible to increase your chances of the Liberation of Shatrath mission appearing. However, I do understand that a lot of you will be wanting to farm, and don't worry, I've got you covered on that. So, the best place to farm these, from my beta experience, is Shatrath City. Now, most of the mobs inside Shatrath drop between 0 and 2 crystals. And if Shatrath is particularly busy, then it's totally cool to head to some of the other level 100 subzones. They all contain level 100 mobs that will drop from 0 to 2 crystals anyway. It's just that there's a really high mob density in Shatrath. Now, I found that when I was soloing, I was getting about, I'd say 100 to 120 per hour with my item level 636 gear and a tier 17 4-piece bonus. So I had pretty decent gear in the beta, and it was only 100 an hour when you consider that the highest level of this gear costs a combined total of 37,000 crystals. I think you can see that this is not particularly lucrative. So if you are soloing it, then yeah, go to Shatrath, lots of packed in mobs, and it's large enough so that there shouldn't be too much competition with other players. Obviously though, an uncontested farm spot is better than a contested one, so feel free to use any of the other zones. Now while farming, make sure that you use whatever outpost ability that you have in that zone, of course prioritizing somewhere like Shatrath that's got, say, access to the artillery outpost is absolutely a good thing. And then, of course, if you have the Garrison, be sure to bring along your bodyguard follower to increase your DPS. Now, there is a more efficient way of doing this, and first of all, I really don't recommend farming, but if you really want to, then you should get a group of people together and just slaughter everything inside Shatrath. This is probably the most efficient way to do this, and, even doing this, you're still going to spend a lot of time even just trying to get a half-decent number of crystals. Honestly, if gearing is your primary concern, then I recommend just doing everything apart from farming. Spending that farming time doing other things, such as the daily challenge mode dungeon, chain running heroics for Warforged bits of gear, or perhaps even getting some resources for crafted gear, would be far more efficient. This Apexis crystal system is balanced to not be the most efficient way to gear up. I think Blizzard's intent is that perhaps over the 4 or 5 or 6 months of this tier, it just means that a casual player who pops in, does their dailies every once in a while, will be able to get some nice loot. If you really want to be just getting into your raiding game as quickly as possible, this might not be the best way to do things, and frankly, by the time you spend your first 5,000 crystals on the 680 ring, and then get yourself into High Mall, really, I don't see there being a terribly great use for these crystals, other than buying some vanity items like mounts. Anyway, that's it for the guide. Sorry there's no magic way to getting a million of these. Trust me, if there was, I would tell you. So yeah, best of luck getting geared up, and be sure to check out the channel for many other guides, including things like garrisons, gearing up in Warlords, and a few other things. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.